Brown, Steve Tasker with you, and joined now by our weekly visitor, NFL Network analyst and resident member of the Bills Mafia, one Michael Robinson, joining us on the show, who is amped, stoked, and quite frankly giddy about a 23-20 come-from-behind victory over the Baltimore Ravens on the road. Mike, how you doing?
I am excellent. Happy Victory Monday to you guys. I'm pumped up, man. I saw what I needed to see, man. What a win from our Buffalo Bills, Bills Mafia. Oh, I got to remind everybody that we got the baddest man in the planet playing quarterback. Some of those throws, man, in the rain, in the wind. Oh, my goodness. I just finished watching the tape for the third time, man, and I see a new throw. I see a new play that I'm seeing from Josh Allen that I haven't seen from any other quarterback in the National Football League. There's only two human beings that could have came back and won that game. One, Josh Allen, the other, maybe Patrick Mahomes. But that's it, guys. That's how pumped up I am on this Victory Monday morning.
We were talking, too, it was tough for Bills fans, particularly in the first half of that game, to watch Lamar play quarterback for the Ravens. And it's like Josh and Lamar, the same guy. He just breaks your heart time and again. And yesterday, Josh came out on top, but Lamar showed, too, why he was a unanimous MVP 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and why he's betting on himself in his ongoing contract conversation with the Ravens. Both these guys are that guy. I mean, they both carry their football team, and yesterday Josh Allen got the last field goal to win it.
Absolutely. And we all knew, I mean, I know I've had some conversations with some people in the national media. We all knew kind of whoever had the ball last in this game was probably going to win. But, I look at the drive that the Ravens came out in the second half, right? The first play that they had was a false start from their rookie guard who's been false starting all year. The next three plays were pass plays. When we think about Lamar Jackson, when we think about the Baltimore Ravens, we think physicality, we think the number one run game in the National Football League, and they came out and they weren't themselves in that second half. That's what it looked like to me. When you look at the Buffalo Bills offensively, what they did, they came out and did exactly what they did. Balls started to hit the receiver's hands. Guys started to catch the football. And Stephon Diggs, man, to be able to catch some of those passes, man, in those conditions, it's truly phenomenal. And it gives you confidence to know that later on in the season, as the weather starts to pick up, that the Bills aren't going to have any problem moving the ball up and down the field.
All right, so as good as everything was on offense, there is a concern that too much of the burden is on Josh. Josh has now led the Bills in rushing in 3 of their first 4 games. Short yardage is still an issue. They had a 3rd and 1 they couldn't convert on a carry by Zach Moss, among others. So we know that Aaron Kromer is an accomplished offensive line coach. We know he's trying to tweak some of the concepts within the scope of the run game. Being a former NFL back yourself, Mike, what is reasonable for when this thing is going to reach critical mass and they have a run game that they can turn to when they need to and rely upon it?
Well, as you guys know, this game is really all about situational football. Our Bills team maybe not from a running back position is going out and running for 150 yards a game. That's just not how we're built. That's just not the way that things are happening. And sometimes when you have a quarterback that's that dynamic, can do that much, he's probably I don't know this, but he's probably on the sideline saying, guys, I got to have the ball. Like, let me do me. Let me have the ball and be able to help our team win. It's hard to say no to that. It's hard to take the ball out of one of the most dynamic guys in the National Football. It's hard to take the ball out of his hands. I saw in situational football in the second half, not in the first. In the first half, if you guys had seen my tweets, me and Ken Dorsey was having some heated fellowship through my tweets. You know what I'm saying? But it seemed like in the second half, especially at times, I tell all of our listeners to go to that final drive. There was a couple of runs from Devin Singletary, and I want you to watch the right side of this offensive line. And my man Bates and Morris Bates coming out of Penn State, this double team literally took the defensive tackle and put him in the lap of the linebacker. And the offensive line got excited about it. There was another sweep play where our tackle got cut and he got up and he probably should have been a penalty, but running the football and getting these guys excited about pushing guys on the ground and moving other grown men. As long as we're able to do that in situational football, which I did see that in the second half, I think we'll be fine. But we got to understand that this team is built differently. The quarterback is a little different than traditionally we're used to seeing. And he's one of those guys. He's one of the baddest men on the planet.
And when you see the offense do what it does, I mean, they continue to try and hand it off and get some plays going and keep their running game involved, even though it's not as productive consistently as they'd like to do. And the spin has been, we talked about this a little earlier in the show, Mike, where they're saying, listen, our short passing game is our running game. How much validity is there in that?
It is. There is a lot of validity in that. But, and I'm sure Coach McDermott will agree with me. He's a defensive guy. There is something to just handing the ball off, having two double teams, and telling the defense, come take these body blows. You might only get 2 yards. You might only get 3 yards, but it sends a message. When I'm in stadiums, I like to watch the game from the sideline. I like to be right at the ball. I like to see the line of scrimmage. I like to see the surge from the offensive line or from the defensive line. And again, you may only get 2 or 3 yards, which I saw in some instances in the second half. But it was the body blows that it sent to the Baltimore Ravens, that it sent to Calais Campbell, who's getting a little longer in the tooth, that it sent to a Patrick Queen, who's a linebacker who, once he sees run, because he's such a smaller guy, he has to run up there and attack. And that opened up some play action opportunities behind him. So, yeah, you may not run traditionally for 150 yards from the traditional running back position, but again, at spots, I think this team showed yesterday they could be really, really good running the football.
Flipping it over to the defense, Mike, and we'll get to Jordan Poyer in a second, but the job that was turned in by Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano to keep Lamar Jackson under wraps when he took off and ran with the football, not to mention that final 16-play drive by the Ravens. They're in first and goal at the 10, and Milano and Edmonds probably make 3 of the next 4 plays to keep them out of the end zone before the Poyer pick. Just the job by Milano and Edmonds, who combined for 22 tackles yesterday.
It was beautiful. Just a chef's kiss, man. Beautiful. Look, in today's age, when you got the dynamic of quarterbacks that can do what Lamar Jackson can do, you're not going to stop these guys. You can't completely stop these guys. These guys are going to make plays. I thought this defense bent when it had to bend, and then when it got in the red zone, it just didn't break. Matt Milano, I want every young tackler, I don't care what position you play. If you play on defense and you tackle, if you play on special teams and you tackle, any young tackler in the world, I don't care if you're playing rugby, okay, you hear me? Go watch this kid run around, fly around, and make tackles. I was a part of the Seattle Seahawks when we kind of invented that rap, or we used to call it hawk tackling, and we practiced it a lot. Matt Milano had about 6 or 7 hawk tackles yesterday on Lamar Jackson, one of the dangerous men in our league, in the open field, that I was like, oh my goodness, Lamar would have been gone. And some of those tackles were off the chain. I thought Matt had a tremendous game. You guys also mentioned Tremaine Edmonds. There have been times in the previous couple of weeks I thought he's kind of been out of position, but he got his game right this past week. They put him in a spy position a lot of the time, and he was right there to tackle Lamar Jackson. I also thought Gregory Rousseau had a tremendous game, not only rushing the passer, he had a half a sack, but the way he played the run. This kid is learning. This kid is learning how to be kind of that wiry guy that Lamar, that he's still in some of that Von Miller wiry body, kind of slippery body type of a deal. And this kid is playing out of his mind. Like, I'm telling you, in the next 2 or 3 years, he's going to be an all-pro. He's going to be a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. I'm excited what I'm seeing out of that kid. I thought this defense showed up and showed out.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about how the adjustments they made at halftime and what kind of job Leslie Frazier and his staff did completely closing them out in the second half. We heard, I think it was from Taron Johnson, who said the big adjustment at halftime wasn't really with the game plan itself. It was with disguising the coverages pre-snap. So once they didn't know what they were in until after the snap, and that forced Lamar just to take an extra half beat. to get a handle on what the coverage was going to be. Now, it cost them a couple of times, late stemming and stuff like that, getting into it late. But overall, the fact that they just disguised it better really was the key to them shutting it out in the second half. And how much credit does Leslie Frazier deserve for not throwing the scrap in the game plan when it went bad, but just saying, listen, we're still good. Let's just do this, and it worked out.
Let's just be honest. Leslie Frazier should be a head coach in this league. there aren't 32 men coaching football teams right now that are better than that man right there. Let's just be honest with that. Number one. Number two, you hit it right on the head. To have the integrity, to have the wherewithal to stick with your game plan, to understand you're giving up some yards, to understand that you're playing one of those guys. That's Lamar Jackson. You're playing one of those guys, another MVP candidate. And to just kind of turn up the intensity a little bit. That's what they did. They played the same game plan, but they kind of turned up the intensity a little bit. I thought in the first half, guys looked tired. I even was tweeting like maybe the Heat still is kind of staying with them. And I know they didn't have that many plays in the Miami game, but just standing out there in the heat, having all that equipment on and stuff still does something to you. But yeah, you guys are right. Leslie Frazier stuck to the game plan, and the guys balled out. That's what you want to do to a guy like Lamar Jackson. And even you saw Miami start to do some of that to our guy, to Josh Allen some. You just want to have a guy hesitate. You just want to have a guy see something pre-snap, think he knows exactly what he's going to see post-snap, and then have him think again post-snap. Once that happens, that just gives those pass rushers just a little bit time. It gives those guys, those defensive backs on the back end, just a little bit more time to figure some things out. Again, I thought the guys did a great job. But Justin, and we know Greg Roman, he was with the Buffalo Bills a few years ago. That's the word out on Greg. He doesn't necessarily adjust that. He's not the best adjuster at halftime, and I think the defense showed it this past week.
And Poyer is a turnover machine. He catches the pop-up on the tip of the line, obviously makes the big play in the end zone, and it's 4 picks in 3 games played for Jordan Poyer. We know he's a game changer. He has been for a long time in this defense. But maybe, Mike, just describe how huge the pick in the end zone is, because instead of the Bills getting a turnover on downs and getting the ball at their own 1-yard line, they get it at their own 20 on the touchback from the pick. How big was that for the offense?
Huge. So Ken Dorsey, I believe if you saw the camera or if you had a camera on him pre-pick and then after the pick, I believe he would have been the same he was the week before, but just excited, right? Because the type of plays you have to call coming out from your 1-inch yard line or 2-yard line is totally different than the plays you have to call coming out from the 20-yard line. And guys, let's be honest, that probably was the difference in this game. That pick, that 18-yard or 20-yard difference for the Buffalo Bills offense, not having to deal with those 20 yards probably was the difference. And then there was a throw. It was a 7-cut or corner route to Dawson Knox on that drive. I know I've seen some throws from Josh Allen, but I'm a former quarterback guy, so throws, I'm like geeky about throws. He was flat-footed. He pumped the ball so hard it looked like the ball almost came out of his hands in wet conditions while it's raining, while the wind is blowing, and then he proceeds to throw a dime over 2 defenders, 2 former all-pro guys. Okay. To me, that was the throw of the day. To me, and he had one to Stephon Diggs a little bit earlier too. I could talk about Josh Allen throws all day, but that throw right there on that drive, oh man, it was definitely something special. But you guys are right, man. That interception did it, and the fact that he's finding himself around the ball a little bit more, it's right. When you get a guy like Micah Hyde go down, and now you have a guy like Hamlin in the game, a young kid being in there, you don't want to move his position so much. When you have Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer in there at the same time, those guys are interchangeable. When motion happened, they will rock and roll and rotate and be able to play the same position. I think Jordan now is playing a little bit more back, and he's being the short tackler. And somebody pay this dude. Can I say that on this show? Somebody need to pay that dude, man. That man deserves every penny he's about to get. Yeah. Just saying.
One of the things as well about this game, and John Harbaugh got some guff for going for it on 4th and 2, and I use the analogy, as a Bills fan, I thought it was the right decision for him because of the way it made me feel when I found out they were going to go for it. I was like, no, don't just kick it. Let's give us the ball back, right? I thought it was the right thing to do. Lamar is like Josh Allen. They're the best short yardage red zone quarterbacks in the league because you get them out on the edge, they can tuck it and bowl in because they're big. And Josh is really big. So on a 4th and 2 down the goal line, yeah, let's take that chance because and obviously the interception changed it because it gave him the ball at the 20 like we've been talking about. But I thought it was the right thing to do.
Me too. And guys, if any of our listeners, and I know most of our listeners are Bills fans, so if any of our listeners want to know the difference between Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, one of the bigger differences is when the ball is snapped in that situation, I've been a runner. Lamar is a runner playing the quarterback position. He's a runner that has supreme passing ability. So in that position, his instinct is to back up. His instinct is to use his legs. His instinct is to buy time to create a play downfield. If you watch that play, Devin Duvernay was wide open. Like literally, if you just go through your reads, you work that side of the field. It was a bunch. He was the inside receiver. It came out exactly the way the offensive coordinator wanted to. If he would have just threw the ball, I'm sorry, guys, we would have been having a different conversation today.
Yeah.
Josh Allen in that situation, yeah, he's big. Yeah, he can buy time and all of those things. But his first instinct is to read the defense and throw the football. I believe our guy, Josh Allen, hits that wide open Devin Duvernay in the back of the end zone. That is the difference. So I agree with you. I would have went for it too. You got one of those guys, Lamar Jackson. Why not go for it? Why not put the pressure back on the other guy and Josh Allen? And your defense is going to have to play defense anyway and see if Josh Allen can go down there and score a touchdown. So, again, guys, it was a great play by our guys. But at the end of the day, if Lamar Jackson reads the field the right way, again, we're having a different conversation.
Right.
Last one from me, Mike. Let's look ahead now to the upcoming home game against the Steelers. And we're not sure right now which quarterback they will be facing, whether it's Trubisky or Pickett, because we know that Pickett came on to relieve Trubisky last week in their loss to the Jets. And, you know, Pickett, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. Some of them were kind of wonky interceptions. You know, he had a tip ball and another one that was a little wacky. What is your thought about Tomlin's decision this week? Because obviously the offense has been in neutral with Trubisky starting for them. And as exciting as it might be to start Pickett, are you starting Pickett against the number 2 defense in football on the road for his first career start?
Well, when you put it like that, I wouldn't start him. But I think Mike Tomlin, he's smart enough. He's been in this league long enough to know that when you made that switch this past week to Kenny Pickett, that you were going there now. That's the world you're living in. You're living in the world of a rookie quarterback that's going to have to run the football, be explosive in the passing game when you can through play action. And the defense is going to have to find 10 more Minka Fitzpatricks to figure out a way to stop opposing offenses. I think Kenny Pickett does start this week. I think Mitchell Trubisky's broken. I really do. I think that whether with the experience he had in Chicago, I think he lost his confidence. I think he's gotten with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I thought he thought he was okay. And then when they drafted Kenny Pickett, I thought it put another level of put another level of pressure on the kid. And I think he's broken. I think he has all the skills, but I just think he's broken. It's nothing like just throwing a kid like a Kenny Pickett, a rookie quarterback, straight to the fire. At some point, he's going to have to play a defense like the Bills. And if I'm on the Bills roster right now, I'm telling everybody in that locker room, guys, this is like a wounded dog, right? Like they're going to do anything. Be surprised for be ready for onside kicks. Be ready for fake punts. Be ready for all the things that teams that maybe not have the roster as equivalent to the Buffalo Bills will do to you. When we were going to the Super Bowl in our 2013 season with the Seattle Seahawks, we're in that same position. And every single week, we had to be ready for a team doing some different types of things. So I would guard against that, especially after a big win against an AFC opponent like the Baltimore Ravens. Just guard against just some of the trickery and things that could go on, and I think we'll be fine.
Good stuff, Mike. It's always nice to talk to you, particularly after this one. I know halfway through this game, I was like, I don't know, might not be our day, right? But it turned out the adjustments happened. Josh Allen took over. The defense stepped up, and man, oh man, it turned into a really gutsy win on the road. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you guys for having me. This is not those same old, it's not your grandparents' Buffalo Bills. This is a different team, man. I'm telling you, we're going to be coming back. See you guys next week.